Today I'm reviewing the movie Victoria and Abdul, starring Dame Judi Dench and Ali Fazal. I love this movie because it completely embodies the principles of active acceptance, a willingness to defend or stand up for another regardless of whether you agree with their choices and beliefs or not. It's not easy being queen, at least not for Victoria. She describes herself as lame, fat, impotent, and everybody she loves has died, and the people that are hanging around she can't stand. Life is one dreary day after another. That is until Abdul arrives. Abdul, plucked from obscurity because he's tall, gets sent to India to present Victoria with a special coin. While he's giving her the coin, he commits a big royal no-no and looks her straight in the eye. And that one glance changes Victoria's world from black and white to technicolor. She adopts him as her munshi, her teacher. He teaches her Urdu, which is, as he says, the royal form of Hindustani, the language spoken in India in the 19th century. But he does more than that. He introduces her to the spice curry. He teaches her about mangoes. He brings her back to life. She in return lavishes her attention and gifts, such as a cottage, fine clothing, good food, etc., on Abdul. This makes her son Bertie and the rest of the household crazy. First of all, they resent that Abdul has usurped their power with the queen. Secondly, they're mortified that she is spending time with a lowly born colored person. It's hard to know which they hate more, their loss of power or the fact that they're being treated the same as an Indian. Whichever the case, they spend much of their time scheming to get rid of Abdul. They tell her he's lying about his family. They tell her he's taking advantage of her. They even accuse him of being a Muslim activist and sending state secrets back to India so that the Indians can overthrow the British government, all of which are lies. None of that works. Finally, with nothing else to threaten her with, they threaten to take away her throne by having her declared insane. In a fury, she dares them to do it. Do you think they do? Throughout it all, the queen defends her munshi and refuses to buy into the racial hatred and jealousy that surrounds her. Because of her example, I give this movie 3 Odin heads, but with some reservations. The movie is rated PG-13. It has some language, some racial slurs, and of course, the passing reference to gonorrhea. Common Sense Media rates the film for kids 11 and up, but parents on the site say 10 and up. I say you know your kids, so you'll know if they can handle it or not. Older children will have no trouble getting the message of this film. Younger kids, however, may need some discussion around the concept of racism and what it meant for Victoria to consistently stand up against it. Whatever the age of your kids, this film will allow for conversations around history, racism, active acceptance, and even the idea that films often take true stories and play around with them to make them more dramatic. Have you ever stood up for someone who's being persecuted due to who they are or their beliefs? If so, I'd really like you to share your story in the comments. As for me, I have a very personal example of the above. Last summer, I found out that my husband and I were voting for different presidential candidates. Needless to say, it started an epic battle. I just couldn't believe, well, we won't talk about what I believe. Anyway, out of the turmoil came a huge realization, which was that even though my husband and I were on opposite political sides, we wanted the same things. We wanted physical safety, economic opportunity, good education for all, things like that. We just disagreed on who would give us those things. Focusing on our similarities rather than our differences makes practicing active acceptance much easier. So now, If friends start to tell my husband to shut up when he's expressing one of his different opinions, I stop them. I tell them, look, we don't have to agree with him, but we should listen to him. Not only out of respect, but we actually might learn something.